Rain fell softly over the city that night, painting the streets in silver reflections and washing away the noise of the world. I clutched the thin fabric of my war, not to pat it tighter, trying to shield myself from the cold wind that slipped through every corner. My mother walked a few steps ahead, her shoulders straight, her head tilted up as if defying the storm itself. She had always been like that, proud, even when the world made her feel small. "Walk faster, Alina," she said without looking back. People like us shouldn't be seen lingering around places like this. My eyes lifted to the massive black building in front of us. Gold letters glimmered above the grand double doors, lay Imperial. It wasn't just a restaurant. It was the place for the rich, the kind that wore suits worth more than our rent, who ate food we couldn't pronounce. I knew this because I used to walk past it every evening after my cleaning shift, imagining what it must be like to belong inside. Tonight, my mother wasn't here to imagine. She was here to prove something. "Mom," I whispered, my voice almost trembling, "we don't have to go inside. We can celebrate my scholarship somewhere else." She cut me off sharply. "Alina, this is where successful people eat, not at street stalls. If you want to become someone, you have to start seeing yourself there." Her words stung more than the wind. My mother wasn't a bad woman, she was a broken one. My father's betrayal years ago, leaving us for another woman, had carved deep scars in her. She always believed success was something you could wear to cover your wounds. I, on the other hand, only wanted peace. We reached the entrance, where two tall doormen in black suits stood like soldiers. They looked at us from head to toe, not rudely, but with the practiced smile of people trained to recognize who belongs and who doesn't. Our cheap clothes made the decision easy. "I'm sorry, ma'am," one of them said politely. "This establishment is reservation only." My mother lifted her chin higher, "And I have one." She lied effortlessly, as if she had been doing it all her life. "Name's Khan." The doorman's brows twitched the tiniest flicker, and then he checked the list. My heart pounded so hard it almost drowned out the rain. I could see it now. We'd be thrown out, humiliated, like we'd always been by those who thought they were better. But then something strange happened. His posture changed. His tone softened. "Of course, ma'am," he said, opening the door. "Right this way." My breath caught in my throat as we stepped inside. Warm golden light spilled across marble floors. Chandeliers hung like constellations frozen in midair, and the air smelled like jasmine and truffle. My worn sandals squeaked against the polished floor, betraying how out of place I was. "See, Alina," Mom whispered with a triumphant smile, "never act like you don't belong. Make them believe you do." We were guided to a corner table near the center of the room. Beautiful people surrounded us, laughing softly, wearing silk and diamonds, like they were born under a better sky. A violin played somewhere in the background. I could barely swallow the lump in my throat. A waiter approached, his tone smooth, professional. "Would you like something to drink while you decide?" My mother didn't look at the menu. She had no idea what anything meant, but she said confidently, "The best you have." I knew she had no money for this. I'd seen her save coins to buy milk. I leaned in. "Mom, we can't afford." Her hand tightened over mine. "Don't embarrass me." I fell silent. It wasn't about dinner. It was about her pride. The pride of a woman who had been looked down on too many times to let it happen again. Then, just as the waiter turned to leave, something shifted in the room. One of the chefs walking past suddenly froze. His eyes widened as they landed on me. Then another waiter whispered something to the hostess. She gasped slightly, and before I could understand what was happening, 3 members of the staff hurried toward our table. "Ma'am," the chef said softly, a mix of awe and confusion in his voice. Is it really you?" I blinked. "Me." The hostess came forward, her hands almost trembling. "Ms. Alina Khan." I nodded slowly, confused. The next thing I knew, the chef turned to the staff and said words that made my mother's face drain of color. "She's the owner's daughter." Gasps rippled through the nearby tables. My mother's fork clattered against her plate. The whispers grew louder, like the sound of a wave building strength. "Owner's daughter. Is she back? I thought she disappeared after. What happened?" I stared at the faces turning toward me, my heart beating so fast I could hear the blood rushing in my ears. "I don't understand," I said, my voice shaking. The hostess smiled nervously. "Ms. Khan, your father built this place. You used to come here all the time when you were little. My fingers went cold. I hadn't heard that name Khan attached to anything grand in years. My father, Imran Khan, had been one of the most powerful businessmen in the city before he walked out on us when I was 10. He'd abandoned us for a younger woman, leaving my mother with nothing but unpaid bills and a broken soul. I'd erased him from my life. Ma'am, the chef continued carefully, Mr. Khan always said this place would belong to his daughter one day. The staff, we remember. The room tilted. My mother's lips trembled, not with emotion but rage. Don't talk about him. She snapped at the chef, her voice sharp as glass. He's dead to us. Silence fell. You could hear the violin falter. The chef stepped back, bowing slightly. But the damage was done. Eyes were on us now. I could feel the weight of their gaze. Mom, I whispered, why didn't you ever tell me this? She stared at me, her chest rising and falling. Because none of it matters, she hissed. That man abandoned us. He gave everything to his other family. We were nothing to him. You were nothing. Her words cut like a blade. All those years I'd blamed myself for being the reason he left, for not being enough came flooding back like a tidal wave. But before I could respond, a tall man in a dark navy suit appeared at the far end of the restaurant. His hair was streaked with silver, his stride calm, his presence commanding. The staff parted for him as if the tide itself had shifted. I didn't need to be told who he was. Alina, my mother whispered with venom, he's here. My father, the man who had walked out of our small apartment and never turned back. He approached slowly, his eyes searching my face with something like shock or regret. Alina, he said softly, as if testing the name on his tongue. I felt something twist inside me. All the anger, the longing, the unanswered questions, they all crashed into me at once. I didn't know you were back, he continued. You look just like your mother. Which one? I spat before I could stop myself. His jaw clenched. My mother stood abruptly. We're leaving. But before we could move, my father said something that froze me in place. Alina, this restaurant, it's yours. The world went quiet. What? He stepped closer, lowering his voice. Legally, I never took your name off the papers. I always intended for you to stop. My mother barked. Her hands were shaking. You have no right to talk to her. I could feel the walls closing in. The smell of food, the soft music, the golden lights, everything blurred. My whole life had been a struggle to escape his shadow, and now it was standing right in front of me. You abandoned us, I whispered, tears stinging my eyes. Why would I want anything from you? He didn't flinch, because I owe you everything. Before I could respond, a loud crash echoed from the entrance, the sound of a vase shattering. A woman in a red dress had entered, flanked by security. Her beauty was cold and perfect. I recognized her face from old photos, the other woman, my father's second wife, and right behind her, a boy. About my age, his son. She smirked at me like a queen addressing a servant. Well, she said, her voice dripping with mock sweetness, the ghost finally returns. The restaurant felt like a battlefield now. One side, my mother and me. The other, the woman who stole our life and the man who abandoned us, and in the middle the empire my father had built on broken promises. The woman in red, Shazia, walked toward us gracefully, every step echoing on the marble floor like the ticking of a clock counting down to war. You have a lot of nerve walking in here, she said to me. This place doesn't belong to you anymore. My father stiffened. Shazia, she raised a hand. I made this what it is today. I turned your crumbling dream into a gold mine. I run this place. My mother let out a bitter laugh. You run it with stolen money and a stolen man. The tension thickened. The staff stood frozen, unsure which side to take. Guests whispered behind champagne glasses, and I stood there, silent, because part of me still wanted to run. But another part, the part forged by years of pain and scraping through life, wanted to fight. I turned to my father. Why now? Why tell me this? He sighed heavily. Because I'm dying, Alina. My breath caught. The room swayed. I have cancer, he said softly. Stage 4. I wanted to set things right. I've already transferred the ownership. The Imperial belongs to you now. Shazia's face went pale. You did what? I should have done it long ago, he said. Before I lost everything that mattered. Her mask cracked, rage spilling out like venom. No, she can't take this from me. She's nothing. I'm his daughter. I cut in, my voice sharper than I'd ever heard it. The one you erased. She lunged forward, but security instinctively stepped between us, not for her, but for me. The staff looked at me differently now, not as the poor girl in old clothes, but as someone who belonged here. My mother gripped my hand tightly. Her eyes were wet but fierce. "You don't owe him anything, Alina. We can walk out of here and never look back." I turned to her. For the first time, I saw her pain clearly. She'd carried hatred for years, and that hatred had kept us alive, but it had also chained us to the past. I looked at my father, at Shazia, at the staff who waited, holding their breath. "No," I said finally. "I'm not walking away." Shazia's eyes flared. "You don't know how to run a business. Neither did he when he started." I shot back, "But he built it, and I'll rebuild what you poisoned." My father's lips trembled. "I'm sorry, Alina. Sorry doesn't fix the past." I whispered, "But maybe it can change the ending." Shazia screamed something, but it didn't matter anymore. The staff sided with me. The lawyers confirmed the transfer. My father walked out of that restaurant with tears in his eyes, and for the first time, I didn't feel like a lost child. I felt like a woman standing on her own ground. As my mother and I stood at the center of Les Imperial, the violin began to play again. This time it wasn't soft background noise. It was an anthem. I took a deep breath. The air smelled of jasmine and power. I'd spent my whole life believing we didn't belong here, but tonight, the doors that were once closed to us opened wide. I didn't just belong, I owned it.